FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 7 o'clock, the President's Club has announced it will close after allegations of sexual harassment at a dinner last week. It's claimed female staff were groped and propositioned during the event at the Dorchester. Anne Franker, Chief Executive of the Chartered Management Institute, has told LBC attitudes are changing.
People are distancing themselves from this. Companies are distancing themselves from this. And I think that's absolutely right. The only sad thing is that it's taken so long for those sort of consequences to happen.
The President's Club says it will distribute remaining funds to charities after 2 London children's hospitals said they would hand back donations. A former sports doctor who admitted molesting USA gymnasts has been jailed for 175 years. More than 150 of Larry Nassar's victims, including Olympic gold medalists, gave evidence during his trial. In court, he apologised for pain, trauma and emotional destruction he's caused.
An acceptable apology to all of you is impossible to write and convey. I will carry your words with me for the rest of my days.
A new inquest has opened into the death of a young soldier at Deep Cut Army Barracks in 1995. It's heard Private Sean Benton told his sister he was shackled and humiliated at a base in Surrey. A verdict of suicide was given after the first hearing. The Brexit Secretary has rejected suggestions the UK plans to remain a vassal state of the EU during any Brexit transition. David Davis says he's relaxed about the terms of the interim and expects a deal to be reached within weeks. It's as the former Prime Minister David Cameron says Brexit has turned out less badly than feared. He was recorded talking to a steel tycoon at the World Economic Forum in Davos, saying Brexit is a mistake, not a disaster. NHS systems in Wales have been restored after a technical problem left patients' records inaccessible. It's understood half of GP services were affected. The cause is being investigated, but no security issues have been reported. And 2 monkeys have become the world's first primates to be cloned by scientists. The long-tailed macaques were born at a laboratory in China using a technique which first cloned Dolly the sheep in 1996. The LBC markets report the FTSE 100's closed down 88 at 76.43. The pound buys $1.41 and €1.14. LBC weather, dry and cold in the south and east. Elsewhere, some longer spells of rain with hill snow in parts of western Scotland, a low of 2 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Thomas Watts.
LBC Travel, looking first to what's happening on the M1 in Hertfordshire. There's a lane closed northbound between junction 6A for the M25 and junction 8 for Hemel Hempstead. That's due to a police investigation which is causing delays. On the M11, there's still 1 lane blocked northbound just after the M25 because of a 4-vehicle accident. There are queues back to junction 5 at Loughton, and there are also long delays on the A13 heading east from Canning Town to the Beckton roundabout. It could be down to people avoiding earlier delays on the A2. At Stockwell in South London, some better news. The Stockpole Road is now open again northbound by the tube station after an accident. LBC Travel, I'm Ross Powell.
This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, it was all going so well. I sat there this morning, the telly was on, the Brexit Commons Committee was in session, and there was David Davis in the chair. And I have to say, he was looking a lot fitter than he had been before Christmas. Obviously had a good break, and he was dealing with the questions, mostly coming from Remainers. Mind you, most of Parliament, of course, are Remainers. And I thought, wow, he's really on top of his brief. He's having a really, really good morning. And then the Conservative MP for North East Somerset, Jacob Rees-Mogg, began. Have a listen.
If on the 30th of March 2019 the UK is subject to the European Court of Justice, takes new rules relating to the single market, and is paying into the European budget, are we not a vassal state?
No, we're not.
Isn't this, though, very serious? But in your earlier answer, you said we were going to accept the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice.
Yes.
So, what do you mean by accept the jurisdiction?
Exactly that.
With automatic effect.
With automatic.
With automatic effect.
That's right.
So we are a vassal state for the 2-year period.
Well, no, I don't say that at all.
very nervous, isn't he?
We are transitioning from one state to another.
All right, if not a vassal state, in what sense have we left the European Union, other than we have no say on what...
We are leaving, as in transiting, as in implementing, right?
Okay, so the transition is from being inside the European Union to leaving the European Union over a 2-year period.
Yep.
It is no longer an implementation of the consequences of leaving.
Oh, well, it will be, because in that period...
Isn't that a really rather weak answer? Can't we be a bit insincere now and get on with it?
Insincerity is not government policy.
Who's going to punish us if we get on with it now? Aren't we just still acting as if we are in the European Union? We're bound by the European Union.
right.
We are lackeys of the European Union.
We're acting as a
Can't we be
law-abiding country.
A bit bolder.
Wow. Well, I have to say, I've always personally found Jacob Rees-Mogg very charming, but I thought in the last few seconds of that clip, we saw a slightly different side to Jacob Rees-Mogg. We saw somebody polite, but very much in control, and I thought utterly determined. And David Davis was, you heard it, laughing nervously. I mean, really having a tough time. I wonder why. I suspect it's because David Davis is a Leaver. I know that because we shared platforms together all over the country. And I think he was embarrassed by what Jacob said because he was defending government policy, and government policy has been to concede. And I think worst of all, to put us through this transition phase. So what Mogg is saying, effectively, is the government say we're leaving at the end of March next year, but actually we will go on having a foreign court ruling over our country. We'll go on accepting not just the existing rules, but all the new rules they make for the single market, and we'll go on paying the money. Vassal state was the word that he used. And elsewhere, he talked about us being lackeys. I mean, I'm the one that's always accused of using this tough language in the Eurosceptic cause. Jacob was out there today doing it. So I'm asking you, is Jacob Rees-Mogg the only Tory who is fighting to genuinely represent the will of the people? And if you think, no, of course not, David Davis is doing it right, we need a transition period, then of course you can call on 0345 6060 973, or maybe if you're a Leaver, Mogg is becoming a bit of a hero, in which case you can text to 84850 and you can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC with what you think the government's progress really is. And of course, you can go to LBC's Facebook page, you can watch the show there and comment there too. Philip is calling from Lymington in Hampshire. Good evening, Philip.
Good evening, Nigel.
So now, Philip, let's just start off by asking, were you a Leaver or a Remainer?
I'm a firm Leaver.
A firm Leaver. And do you think, and because it seems to me, Philip, that apart from Jacob, I can't see anybody else in Parliament who is actually making the arguments.
Absolutely. And as you rightly say, Nigel, I think Jacob is really hardening up his stance, and God bless him. I'm incandescent about what has happened today. When I saw Davis, if you notice, Nigel, he was laughing, he was almost smirking.
Yes.
And Jacob is absolutely right, because what he's talking about is extending our membership. And Theresa May's phrase of implementation seems to have gone down the spout. This is not an implementation, and indeed, what is happening is not even a negotiation now, it's becoming a surrender. I've used before on a previous call to you, Nigel, the parallel of Chamberlain and Halifax.
I remember, yeah.
Davis and May. And if anybody wants to see what leadership is, they should go and see Darkest Hour. I do wish Theresa May would actually go to it. She might actually learn something. Getting on the front foot.
I think that's a bit too optimistic, Philip. But I mean, does there come a point, Philip, where Conservative supporters, Leavers, begin to think that Jacob actually, in many ways, is the heir apparent?
Well, yes, I think that does, because I think there are many Conservatives who are absolutely fed up of having rudderless leadership. surrendering rather than negotiating. Now, one of your heroes, Nigel, if I may say, is Donald Trump. And whilst I'm not a great hero of Trump, I will respect him on one or two aspects. He knows that to negotiate correctly, you need to get on the front foot and start demanding, Nigel, rather than surrendering.
Well, Philip, I went to meet Barnier the other day, as you know, and I've been over there within those institutions for 18 and a half years. And the one thing I've seen all the way through is that if you show the first sign of weakness to the Brussels bully boys, they will steamroller right over you. And that, I think, is what's going on. Philip, I thank you for your call. And Philip, incandescent about the way the government's handling Brexit. I don't think, amongst Tory-type leavers, he's on his own. Dear Nigel, I'm sick to death of hearing David Davis laughing about Brexit. He did it during a Nick Ferrari interview. Davis needs to take it seriously and do what he's appointed to do, says Alan in Shooters Hill via Facebook. Alan, I suspect, as I said earlier, that nervous laugh is because in his bones he knows that Mogg is right, but in a sense, Davis is a prisoner of a cabinet that is split. 25 of them in the cabinet, I think 18 of them voted Remain. And I think that was nervous laughter because he sensed that Mogg was right. But they were strong words, weren't they? Get on with it now. Stop being weak. Let's be bold. Wow. Elizabeth is calling from Clacton-on-Sea. Good evening, Elizabeth.
Oh, good evening, Nigel. I would just like to say I completely agree with Philip.
Yep.
I think the role should be reversed. Jacob should have been sitting in the chair when Mr. Davis was, and he should have been on the panel. I think we need to send Mr. Rees-Mogg over to Brussels. What are they all afraid of? It's disgusting. And perhaps you could answer me, please, Nigel. We never voted for this transition, or whatever you call it.
No.
Are we going to still pay millions and millions of pounds?
We will go on, Elizabeth, paying exactly the same amount of money during the transition period. Now, the transition period, the Prime Minister says, will last for around about 2 years. Well, around about 2 years would take us well into 2021. And given, Elizabeth, that the next general election is due in 2022, I have a feeling that if May is still in charge, and she may well not be, but if May is still in charge, that transition will last up until the next general election. And we reach a point, Elizabeth, where it's going to be 5-6 years after people voted Brexit before we even have the prospect of controlling our borders, of stopping sending the money, and being able to make our own deals elsewhere. And frankly, Elizabeth, I just don't think it's good enough.
No, do I, Nigel, and I'm fuming. The wet lettuce should resign. They should all resign and get people with some backbone to lead this country. I just wish you were back, Nigel. But I think Mr. Rees-Mogg will be the future of the Conservatives. He was brilliant today, and
he was, wasn't he? No, he really. Do you know, whether you agree with the Leave argument or not, the way that Rees-Mogg handled that, I thought was terrific.
And me, Nigel, and I think Mr. Davis laughing was disgraceful. It's not a laughing matter when 17-odd million people voted to leave, and they seem to be just ignoring what we wanted, and we did not want a transition period to pay. Why? What's the point?
Well, the argument is, Elizabeth, that it's all so complicated, it'll all take a very long time, and we need to transition. But the truth about transition is, if all of those conditions are still in place, the court, the money, the rules, we haven't really left, have we? Elizabeth, I thank you for your call. I go next to Middleton in Greater Manchester to speak to Adam. So, Adam, is Rees-Mogg now just about the sole flag carrier for the Brexit vote?
Yeah, and I'm very pleased that he was appointed as the leader of this, the ERM group or something like that.
The European Research Group, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's it, on the backbenches of the Conservative Party.
Yes.
I would also like to say that I agree with Elizabeth completely, who just rang previously. When the reshuffle happened, we were promised that, I say promised, there was a lot of headlines saying that there might even be a Minister for No Deal being created. Not heard anything on that lately, but I was kind of hoping that Mogg would get in during that one.
Yeah, that's right. There was a promise made to us that there would be a Minister for No Deal appointed to show Barnier and Juncker and all that lot that actually we're quite serious about walking away without a deal. And you know, Adam, before I came to LBC tonight, I've been to a wine tasting.
Nice.
No, seriously. And we were trying champagnes and sparkling wines and whatever. And really interesting. A lot of people there who earn their living importing wines from France, and many of them really worried, because if we didn't have a deal, and if tariffs were to go, on those goods, guess who gets hurt? Not the British. We can buy Australian wines or Chilean wines or whatever we like. The French would get hurt. So the logical position that we should have a trade deal, frankly, is not the one that Barnier and co. want to go with. They want us to be punished. They want leaving the EU to be seen to be very, very hard. And it's about time, Adam, we went and started playing hardball. I said in the last 2 weeks of the referendum, no deal is better than a bad deal. The Prime Minister has said that in speeches, but it's about time she showed some mettle, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I agree with that as well, but one thing also I'd like to say is that apparently with this EU jurisdiction that's going to be happening over the next 2 years after we've left, are we going to have any... Do you know, as an MEP yourself, if we're going to have this sort of taxation and regulation from the European Union with representation? Will you be allowed to stand in the 2019 elections?
No, absolutely not on current course. There is talk, Adam, of some MEPs staying on with observer status. I don't think I'll be one of the ones they select. And during that period, goodness knows what they might do to us on fisheries quotas or rules and regs. It's a worry. Adam, I thank you. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show exclusively on LBC. It's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Scotland Yard investigates a new claim of war boy's sexual assault. Louis in Nottingham. Louis.
He'll probably be category 1, which is registered sex offender. He'd be having to sign on a dotted line every hour, on the hour.
William in Yakeley.
It doesn't work like that in reality. I've worked in bail and probation for many years.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Cunard will be any time you like. Time to stop. Time to relax. Time to indulge. Time to love. Showtime. Time for a voyage with Cunard.
At UKME, our chauffeur service is 6-star. Just like the package we offer our drivers. Join the company that treats its drivers like VIPs. Apply today at ukme.co.uk.
Hello, Tim speaking.
Have you been injured in an accident in the last 5 years?
Hello, Tim speaking.
Are you eligible for a PPI claim?
Right now, over 6,400 people are waiting for a call that will change their lives. Telling those closest to you that you want to be an organ donor could help save the lives of people like Tim. Search organ donation and chat about it today.
Hello?
Tim, it's Angela at St George's Hospital. We have a kidney for you.
Get more for less with Mobalpa kitchens. Stylish on the outside, clever on the inside, with up to 20% more storage space than a standard size kitchen unit. Order now to pay no VAT for a limited time only. Find your nearest Mobalpa kitchen studio at mobalpa.co.uk.
Crikey, the boiler's gone again. Cold showers. Oh, I'll have to get someone round and tidy up and get better biscuits. I've only got malted milk. I can't have no shower. I've got Zumba on Wednesday. Relax. Relax. It's Trust a Trader. Bloomin' lovely tradespeople who do the job right. You pop in your postcode and find great tradespeople right on your doorstep. Oh, he's here. Get the party rings out. Visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com. To re-record your message at any time, press #.
Hey, baby. No, that's rubbish. Hey, just calling to see what's shaking. It's me, just checking in before I hit the old Jim-a-rooney. No. Hi, I just love you, okay? Can't say that.
Message completed.
No.
With Vodafone Pay-As-You-Go One, you can stay in touch as much as you like and never pay more than £1 a day. The rest is on us.
Hi, listen, about that message.
Search Vodafone Pay-As-You-Go One. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Opt in and spend £1 a day for unlimited standard calls and text plus 500 meg of data in the UK and or Europe zone. Terms and exclusions at vodafone.co.uk/pay-as-you-go-one.
Time for a voyage with Cunard. Visit cunard.com.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Smog gives David Davis a real grilling at the Commons Brexit Committee today, and I'm asking the question whether he's the only Tory MP actually standing up and representing the views of the people in this country that voted Brexit. That's what I think, but I mean, tell me, if you think I'm wrong, if you think actually no, the government and David Davis are doing this the right way, then let me know on 0345 6060 973. And a Conservative Member of Parliament has responded on Twitter, Nicholas Soames, who loves Twitter, and he said, in response to the question, no. Well, Nick, if you're listening, please do ring in. Please tell me why Mog is wrong and why the government are getting this right. We'd love to hear from you. We really, really would. Peter says Ramona's should not be near Brexit. Well, that would mean 2/3 of the cabinet being sacked. Sam says David Davis was my MP until recently. Never saw him come here once. Well, Sam, you know, the trouble is it's quite a big rural constituency. Not always easy for MPs to meet everybody. Rob says Brexit is doomed to fail. Well, maybe with this government we've got a bit of a problem. And Greg says we do control our borders. It's why people need passports to enter the UK from abroad. Rubbish argument, Nigel. Yes, Greg, they have to show their passports. But anybody from the European Union has the right to come and live and work and settle here. And there's no cap on numbers whatsoever. Mr Blair, of course, got badly called out on this one, saying that it would increase when the ex-former communist countries joined by 13,000 a year. And it was many, many times that number. Greg, we have no control over the numbers of people from the European Union who want to come and settle here. And it's one of the big reasons, I think, why people voted Brexit. I believe that, certainly. Moggy was brilliant, says Maggie Jones. What does Steve in Chelsea think? Good evening.
Nigel, I think Moggy was wrong.
Do you? Okay.
Well, I do, yeah. I think we're going to have a transition deal. It's quite obvious. We can't just leave current businesses in the lurch, just to pull away and suddenly they'll all have to sort of renegotiate, post haste, just to get back into the EU. So we're going to need a transition deal. And whilst we've got that transition deal, we'll still abide by the European laws, rules and regulations. So,
but Steve,
yep.
Article 50 was supposed to be the transition period. So let's just get this right. We voted no. The government then took 9 months, if you remember, to trigger Article 50 because they were getting prepared. I mean, I was told we had a 2-year period in which to sort everything out, and then we'd leave, and that'd be that. And they've now extended that to at least 4 years.
But even Jacob Rees-Mogg said back in 2011 that if the deals weren't going according to plan, we would have the right to have a second referendum on whether we wanted to continue or not. So I think even he accepted at the time that things wouldn't go as smoothly as most Brexiteers would envisage. And what you've got to understand is Article 50 was very much hastily drafted as an afterthought. No one actually thought anyone would want to leave the EU.
Steve, I tell you what, I don't agree with that. Article 50 was drafted and debated during the European Constitutional Convention. Giscard d'Estaing headed it up. They did spend a lot of time thinking about it. I think in some ways, Steve, they made it so unattractive, they never thought anyone would take the option.
Well, it was only about 4 or 5 lines, wasn't it?
Yeah, there isn't much to it at all. I mean,
there's not much to it at all. So there was hardly any thought put into it. If they could just put it on the back of a postage stamp. I mean, the fact is, we're going to end up at some point still doing a deal with the EU, and when we do end up doing a deal with the EU, we'll end up complying with their rules and regulations, and the deal we will be doing with the EU won't be as good as we currently have because we'll be negotiating as a new member.
But Steve, we don't want to comply with their rules and regulations. We want to be able to be competitive and a serious global player.
Yeah, we can be competitive, but we can only be competitive with countries outside the EU. If we're dealing inside the EU, then obviously we're going to have to apply by their rules and regulations, aren't we?
No.
I mean, if we want to enter their market, they own their market.
Do you know, Steve, as I say, I've just been drinking some French wine before coming on air. I saw lots of German cars as we drove up around Trafalgar Square. We are a very big market for them, and with or without trade deals, we're going to go on doing business, Steve, anyway, aren't we?
We will go on doing business, but as has been pointed out many times, it's foolish to think that the deal that we will have with them in the future will be as good as the deal we have now. Bearing in mind that if we deal with countries outside the EU and those countries deal with the EU, then it's unlikely that we are going to get a better deal with those countries outside the EU than they currently have.
Well, Steve, you know, the idea we have a good deal now, I think, is baloney, because we pay a net £10 billion every year. The total tariffs on British products going to the European Union is less than £10 billion. But, Steve, you know, fine, we disagree on this. You think Jacob's... I mean, do you think the government are getting this right by using a transition period?
Well, I think we should do what Jacob Rees-Mogg said back in 2011. I think we should be allowed to have another referendum on the deal that then is then put to us.
Well, Steve, it may come to that, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, much to the shock horror of many. I fear that Barnier is going to make sure the deal looks unattractive, and there is a risk that our members of Parliament vote against it, and we could be staring down the barrels of a second referendum. After all, they forced the Danes to do it and the Irish twice. Steve, I thank you very much indeed for your call. Daniel is calling from Stoke Newington. Daniel, good evening.
Nigel, good evening. I'm very interested to talk to you. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, dear boy. Fine. And I take the view, Daniel, that Jacob is, on the issues, fighting for what the Brexit campaign said it was all about.
Okay, can I ask you a few things about your opinion about Jacob Rees-Mogg? I'm quite curious to what you think about this.
No,
actually.
because no. This is not. No. I'm asking you whether you think Rees-Mogg is representing Leavers properly, or whether perhaps he's too harsh and the government are doing it the right way.
Okay. In response, I will say I don't think Jacob Rees-Mogg, with his inherited wealth, with his inherited power and with his inherited positions, represents anybody in the country. So, frankly, I don't think his opinions matter a jot.
Is it impossible, Daniel? Is it impossible? Pardon? Is it impossible for someone who comes from great privilege? Is it impossible for them to be a good political leader in the 21st century?
Yes, I think it is.
Really?
Yes, I do. And given how Brexit is supposed to be the will of the people and so on.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm an arch Remainer, incidentally.
I'd never have guessed, Daniel.
I've been wanting to talk to you for such a long time, and I've called up very, very many times because I've been wanting to talk to you.
Well, I'm pleased we've got you on, Daniel.
Representative. I'm very happy. I'm very happy to talk to you finally.
Where would your cut-off be, Daniel, in terms of people's wealth and inheritance? Where would the cut-off be? At which point they would be unallowed to enter public life?
No. I didn't say unallowed. I'm saying, in particular, with Jacob Rees-Mogg, I do not think he is remotely representative of anybody in Britain. And I think for him to say, along with various other members of the Brexit side, including people like Aaron Banks, that they are representative of the people, and then people like what's the name of the Australian gentleman that runs all the newspapers?
Yeah, Mr. Murdoch, who of course was an ardent Labour supporter under Tony Blair's time, wasn't he?
But his opinion, whether he's...
And by the way, Daniel, Tony Blair's an arch Remainer, and he's rich, so should we not listen to Tony Blair either?
I don't think it's about a political divide in that way. I don't think this is about Conservative or Labour, and I think you're somewhat twisting the argument.
Daniel, you said that Jacob Rees-Mogg, because of all this wealth he's got, is incapable of actually expressing the view of people. And I'm asking you, is Tony Blair, by the same token, if he's worth 50 million now, is he too out of touch to comment?
Okay, was he born into it?
Not into great wealth, but he went to a very good private school in Scotland. He had a relatively... Daniel, I tell you what, Daniel, you're an arch... Let's just move this on to Europe itself, because as you're so keen on the project. Angela Merkel today, speaking at Davos, said that now that Britain's gone, Europe has the courage to move forwards, and she talks about Monsieur Macron also giving a new impetus and drive to reform Europe. Now, when they use the word reform, they mean to centralise more deeply, and they're going to have their European army, their European foreign policy without veto. Do you actually think, Daniel, that the British public would vote to rejoin something that is clearly now becoming a United States of Europe?
Okay, in response, I want to find out from you, do you think the way the British government is about things like the Court of Human Rights and this sort of thing, do you think the British government is going to stand up and be a positive force for its own citizens on nuclear energy, on waste management, on healthcare management, and various other issues? In my opinion, please let me finish.
Go on.
In my opinion, the European Union is a far more democratic and a far more...
You're having a laugh, Daniel.
No, I'm not having a laugh.
You're having a laugh.
No, not at all. I think...
You're winding me up.
I'm not winding you up. As I said, I'm a Remainer. I have more belief in the European government, the European Union, than I have in the British government.
Daniel,
for many
Daniel, I'm sorry we've run out of time. You've made your view very passionate and very strong. I personally hate the idea that the people who can propose legislation in Europe are not directly elected and cannot be removed. They are the Commission. But Daniel, you've got your point of view, and hey, if this is LBC, you can come and say what you like, long as it's clean. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show exclusively on LBC at 7:30, and time for the news with Thomas Watts.
The President's Club says it will close distributing its remaining funds to children's charities. It's claimed female staff were groped at its event in the Dorchester in London last week. Former US Olympic doctor Larry Nassar has been sentenced to up to 175 years in prison after admitting sexually abusing gymnasts. More than 150 of his victims gave statements to the court over several days. The FA says England women's head coach Phil Neville will not be charged over sexist remarks made on social media. He's apologised for the posts from 2012 and 2011. LBC weather, dry and cold in the south and east, longer spells of rain elsewhere, a low of 2 degrees.
LBC Travel. In Hertfordshire, the northbound M1 has a lane closure in place between junction 6A for the M25 and 8 for Hemel Hempstead. A police investigation ongoing there. On the northbound M1 in Northamptonshire, a lane's blocked on the exit slip road at junction 15 for Northampton. A car has broken down, causing delays. It's very heavy on the A1 through Holloway ahead of the Arsenal v Chelsea match. That's at the Emirates Stadium and kicks off at 8. And the London Overground has no service between Willesden Junction and Richmond. LBC Travel, I'm Paula Brett.
This is LBC.
It's here. It's one of over 1,000 great used vans, and it could be yours.
What's that coming over the hill? Van Monster. Van Monster.
Van Monster has a huge choice of used vans across the UK, all with 6 months warranty and flexible finance options too, like these 2014 Mercedes Sprinters from under £11,500 plus 20% VAT. Find your next van right now at vanmonster.com. Representative 13.9% APR.
I've got someone here on the phone, says he's Robert, my broadband customer service manager. He says there are problems in the area, which there are, and as I'm a valued customer, they're offering me a refund. Great. Just so long as I confirm all my card details. That tells me Robert is not who he says he is. My money? My info? I don't think so.
Always question uninvited approaches and never give out personal or financial details in case it's a scam. Take 5 to stop fraud.
Get in!
Oh, yes!
The sound of people finishing their tax return. If you're self-employed, QuickBooks helps you keep track of the tax you owe, so you can file it faster. Snap and store receipts, automatically sort expenses, and claim back every mile you can with auto mileage tracking. All in one place. Take the stress out of tax time. Search QuickBooks today. Taxes done.
Woohoo! When you need to identify the best senior talent for now and the future, keep hiring costs down, and quality at a premium, it's time to think smart. At Smart Research HR, we have over 30 years' experience in assisting global organisations to attract the right talent. And with our bespoke executive research services offering exceptional value for money, trust us to bring the best candidates into your business. Contact us now at smartresearchr.com, the smart way to recruit.
Do you spit blood when you brush? You could be on a journey to much worse.
Next stop, bad breath, receding gums, final destination, tooth loss.
If you spit blood, you may have gum disease. Ignore it and you could be on a journey to much worse. Switch to Corsadil Ultra Clean toothpaste. When used twice daily, it's 4 times more effective than a regular toothpaste at removing the buildup of bacteria, the main cause of bleeding gums. help leave bleeding gums behind. Corsadil Ultra Clean helps stop and prevent bleeding gums.
What better time to take the kids to see Gran than half term? But maybe this year you shouldn't all try to squeeze into your old bedroom. First stop, premierinn.com. How about a family room? Plenty of space for everyone, and the kids stay free. A great sleep and unlimited breakfast. You'll need it to keep up with everything the Rellies have got in store. Stop searching, start saving at premierinn.com.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Now, anyone that's anyone, this week is in Davos for the World Economic Forum, which, of course, is why I'm here, including David Cameron. Remember him? He was our Prime Minister until the Brexit referendum, and he was approached by a reporter in a hotel reception that was going on and asked about Brexit. This is what he had to say.
It's frustrating. It's, as I keep saying, it's a mistake, not a disaster. It's turned out less bad. It's still maybe difficult.
Just in case you missed that, because it was difficult, the audio, you know, he's talking about Brexit and he's saying it's frustrating. As I keep saying, it's a mistake, not a disaster. It's turned out less badly than we first thought. So there's no Third World War. There's no collapse in the property prices. I mean, goodness me. You know, can we have an apology, please, David Cameron? Can we have an apology for the £9 million of taxpayers' money that you spent sending that leaflet out to every home in the country and telling us for month after month after month what a catastrophe it would be? Rather than just saying it over a gin and tonic at a reception in Davos, come and tell us it's going to be OK. We'd love to hear from you. Colleen says, if Article 50 was drawn up, not thinking anyone would leave, then that just proves we were taken for granted. There is some truth in that. It was drawn up in a way, Colleen, it was worded in such a way that the withdrawing member state during that period cannot attend meetings, debate or vote on issues that affect it. And it sort of sounds terrifying. It was almost designed to be it's there, but if you use it, we can do what we like to you. Mark says, isn't Jacob Rees-Mogg the most shining example of the political elite you've been railing against for so long, Nigel? No, Mark, and I'll tell you why. Because after university, do you know what Jacob Rees-Mogg did that virtually none of them ever seemed to do? He went and did a proper job, and he finished up running his own investment company. And you know something? He's made a lot of money doing it, and good luck to him. So yes, he may have gone to Eton. Yes, he may be a member of the upper classes. Yes, he may have had a very rarefied life in lots and lots of ways. But the fact that he actually has been out and made a commercial success of his life before coming into politics sets him apart from nearly all of them. And I think this idea that we got from Daniel before the break, that because of Rees-Mogg's background, he's really not entitled to speak on these issues, frankly, was nonsense. I couldn't care less what class people are, what background they've got. You know, if they're in politics and they're sincere, that, it seems to me, is what matters. Dale is a new caller from Chester. Good evening, Dale.
Hi, Nigel, you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I just, I think, we've got the Remain side who want us to stay in at all costs and have another vote, and we've got Jacob on the Leave side, and I think he is genuinely representing those arguments that were made for Brexit. The trouble, to me, Dale, the problem is the government.
Well, you might not like what I'm going to say, but I did vote for Brexit.
Yeah.
But I would like to put it to you, and I listen to you on the show all the time, but
yeah.
I think you need to take some responsibility for the situation that we're in. Purely on the basis that we voted for you. Millions of people voted for UKIP based on what you sold us. Mm-hmm. And then we get the result we want, and you leave, and you abandon us. And
well, Dale,
we've got no one.
Dale, I wasn't in government. I wasn't in government. That's the point. And
well, who's fighting our corner?
Well, I'm doing my best. In the European Parliament, I'm doing my best going off to meet Monsieur Barnier. I'm doing my best to try and get a real feel for where these negotiations are going. Dale, listen. If anybody at any point after Brexit had come and said to me, "All right, Nigel, you got us into this. we're going to give you a position. You are now part of the negotiating team. You now have a big responsibility on your shoulders. Do you know what I'd have said, Dale? I'd have said absolutely yes. Of course, I would love to do that. But
that's what we as voters wanted. We were stuck with not all, and it was kind of embarrassing.
Dale, I promise you, Dale, if I'd had a chance to be involved in this, I would have done, but the snobby Tories don't really want to deal with me.
Get back in the running and let us vote for you.
Well, I could do that. And it may come to that again. But Dale, I would love to help with the process. I don't see at the moment what more I can do. I do think, though... But you
can give us the Brexit we voted for.
How?
Well, we were led to believe that Brexit was going to save us money. It's just costing us money. And I believe we're fighting the biggest economic war we've ever had. This is going to cost our country a fortune. It's going to cripple us.
Dale, Brexit isn't the problem. It's the government's implementation. It's their cowardice. And as Jacob Rees-Mogg said today, get on with it. I didn't... Dale, I've never, ever, ever... wanted to have a transition period. I didn't even want Article 50 to last for 2 years.
I just want to leave. I think we should just go. Let's just leave and head it on our own.
Well, I think that's what Jacob was...
I'm not paying a penny.
I think that's what Jacob was coming to today. Dale, I'll do anything I can to help. I'm sorry you're frustrated with me, but, if anyone asks me, if the government want me to help and want me to bear responsibility if it goes wrong, I'm happy to do so. Dale, I thank you for your passion. Jeanette says, for God's sake, Daniel, the caller before the break, just because he's got money does not make him a bad person. Mrs. May's very wealthy. Her husband makes a lot of money. I'm not sure, Jeanette, that argument is necessarily going to calm Daniel down, but hey. Let's go to Ryan, another new caller from Walthamstow. Good evening, Ryan.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I'm all right. Do you know what? When I was listening to that earlier on, with the way that Jacob Rees-Mogg was talking to David Davis, the extent to which he was in control of the conversation, but also of the facts, I have to say, I was cheering him on, Ron.
As was the way I feel, Nigel, Rees-Mogg is representative of an identity which has been robbed from us. I feel that Rees-Mogg's future, if this guy comes into power, I'm voting for him guaranteed. He represents a golden age of this country. I'm not some kind of crazy right-wing lunatic or anything, but I believe in the British core values, which they have been systematically removed. And I think anyone who denies that is probably a Remainer or a feminist or this or that. Or at the end of the day, we're in a position, Nigel, I feel, where we could either carry on to the point of no return, but right now we still have a chance to save ourselves. I think the establishment has betrayed us with Brexit. I hope they don't fully betray us.
Yeah.
I'm a young man. I'm 26 years old. I'm living in this environment where the demographics, everything is just completely and utterly changed. It's mutated into something which I do not recognise. I feel very disenfranchised, and I have a lot of love. I'm not a hateful person. I look at the world every day, and each and every day, especially where I'm coming from, my area and many similar areas, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And that guy that called from Stoke Newington before...
I know. But, Ryan, the point is that we're having proper, open, democratic debate on this show and on LBC as a station. It's very important we get all points of view. Ryan, you had a big kick there at feminists. Are all feminists bad?
Absolutely not. You have the new wave and you have the classic. The classical feminists, I think anyone who isn't a classical feminist is not a good person, because you have to believe in women's rights. However, I think people that think that all men are Nazis, that need to be... in fact, no, I'm going to quote you a headline from The Independent the other day after Jordan Peterson's epic interview with that Kathy Newman.
That was very good, yeah.
Oh, that was the best. I mean, I watched it 5 times. I'm probably mad, but I can't help myself.
You're being driven mad.
And this Independent article said, this is what... I can't remember it word for word, but the general takeaway was, this is what happens when white men feel that they are losing their grasp on power. And in my culture, we're not some kind of angry white man that's got to control women and these feminists need to get that out of their heads, because we are on their side. We don't want to hurt them. The problem is they want to hurt us.
Right, I tell you what, when we have a debate on this year, we better get you on the line. Your first time call to the show, thank you very much for your passion passion and your opinions. Annie says they would never ask for your help, Nigel, because they would lose face. I suspect they are never. And Greg says Brexit is the problem. Food has gone up since the vote. Oh, the only people who will suffer are the ordinary people. Is that, Greg, because the pound's down? Sterling against the dollar today is higher than it was at many points before the referendum. Higher. Yes. Stop whinging about the currency. And as the boss of Wetherspoons Pubs, Tim Martin says, with Brexit, we can take off the tariffs on foods we buy from the third world and we can have much cheaper food in this country. It's an option, we could choose it, and that's the point about Brexit. It gives us the freedom to do all sorts of things. What it doesn't do is guarantee us good governments. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
More than half of Britain's teachers have a diagnosed mental health problem. So what is it about working in schools that's putting so much pressure on teachers?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Do you or your business own a property with planning permission opportunities or land with development potential? If so, Barnes Rofe can help you manage the risks and maximise your gain. With joint venture contracts, development partnerships, property SPVs, financing and ownership structures, and property tax advice. At Barnes Rofe, we've already supported our clients through property deals worth millions. So call us today, and you can be next. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for property businesses.
Here are some things you can afford to miss at work. Keyboard warriors. Meaningless jargon.
Let's just circle back and align.
That thing that's going round. Ugh. But you can't afford to miss calls to your small business, because missed calls cost you money. eReceptionist manages and diverts your calls. Plus, you can dial out from your eReceptionist number on your mobile. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at eReceptionist.co.uk. T's and C's apply. See website for details.
You could make the main dealer's day by paying over the odds. Or you could go to Big Motoring World and save a fortune on up to 2,000 pre-owned BMWs, Mercedes, Audis and VWs in stock. Then with the money you saved, put a smile on your face with a cheeky weekend away for two. Give yourself a break at Big Motoring World, just minutes from the M25. See bigmotoringworld.co.uk.
The recruitment sector is highly competitive. So if you don't attend the UK's #1 recruitment industry event, with its free seminars, training sessions and networking opportunities, but your competitor does, what then? Don't lose your competitive edge. If you work in recruitment, register now for free entry to the Recruitment Agency Expo. Coming to London Olympia on the 31st of January and the 1st of February. Go to recruitmentagencyexpo.com.
Everyone who comes to TDC Smile in a Day has a story to tell.
I couldn't eat a baguette or fruit, an apple.
We gave John dental implants and natural-looking fixed teeth in just one day.
What I didn't want was to have teeth taken out and then have to wear dentures.
Around 3 months later, we exchanged his fixed teeth for his final permanent set. To see life-changing before and after pictures and independent patient reviews, visit smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 986.
Take the step because it's life-changing.
0203 7334 986.
5 weeks ago, 19 men attacked our country. We'll be the first to fight back.
From the producer of Black Hawk Down.
No reinforcements, no extraction. We're on our own.
Based on the declassified true story of the horse soldiers.
Chances are we are not going to make it out of this one. We're with horsemen against tanks.
Strap in tight! Chris Hemsworth. 12 strong in cinemas Friday.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
A couple of Sundays back on my Sunday show, I had Alistair Campbell in the studio. And, of course, we have very, very different views on Brexit. In fact, on almost every subject under the sun. And he came in and he stayed for an hour and he took your calls. And he so enjoyed it that this Saturday at 10 a.m., Matt Fry's away, and from 10 till 12 this Saturday, Alistair Campbell will be in this chair taking your calls on LBC. So nobody can say there's not diversity of opinion within this radio station, because there most certainly is. And we're talking about the MOG. And was he right to give David Davis that grilling? Is he the only one standing up for the true values of Brexit, or are the government perhaps getting it right? Sally is calling from March in Cambridgeshire. Good evening, Sally.
Good evening. Hello to you again, Nigel. You may recall I phoned you about a week ago to encourage you in every way, and the UKIP. But about Rees-Mogg, I don't think he will take us through Brexit, because he's too involved with the Conservative Party, and I don't believe that they're going to take us through Brexit.
Well, Sally, is it possible that if the Conservative Party were to take us really in the wrong direction on Brexit, that Jacob might just completely rebel?
I don't think so, no. In my opinion, I don't think so, no. Because if he was a strong leaver, he would have to have, he would be, what can I say, immersed in leavers, not in half of so many people that want to remain.
Well, you know, he may be outnumbered in his own party, and people like Kate Hoey are even more outnumbered in the Labour Party. We'll see, Sally. We'll see what the future brings. But did you think today he was making the right arguments?
Well, yes, he stood his ground very well. I give him that. He did.
Yeah, I think he did.
And he made, he was firm. But I still stick to what I've just said.
Yeah. No, fine.
That's my prediction.
Yeah, well, and backing you up, Sally, and thank you. Yeah, hi, Nigel. Rees-Mogg is a hero. As for David Davis, he's been caving into Remainers for some time, hence the nervous laugh. And it really was, wasn't it? A very, very nervous laugh. It was as if he'd been caught out. Julie says yes. No others beside Mogg really want Brexit. Gordon is calling from Southampton. Hello, Gordon.
Hello, Nigel. Good to speak to you. I'm just about that caller down in the room that we said there would be no one supporting David Davis. Well, I'm Mogg. I am supporting Mogg all the way.
Right.
He took David Davis to task. He asked him some difficult questions, and he was looking for some good answers. And the best David Davis could do was just find it funny and laugh and just think it's all a bit of a joke. And really, it's not a joke.
No, it's not a joke.
It's serious.
It's not a joke. And you could make light of things whilst making a serious argument, but it was the nervous nature of the laughter, I guess, wasn't it, really?
I mean, if you're going to go across and look to negotiate, you need to show you to be strong to negotiate a good deal. And they just see this man turn and they think, hey, here's Coco the Clown coming. Because he just thinks it's a joke. It's not a joke. We're led to believe that he wants to leave Europe. Well, if he wants to leave Europe, have some backbone. Get on with it. Or his hands tied behind his back.
I mean, I would say, Gordon,
not allowed to.
I would say in his defence, I feel that David Davis is effectively, he's a negotiator for us, but he's effectively a hostage of the cabinet, and the cabinet's very split. And May is taking us towards the softest of all soft Brexits, and I think David Davis is trying to do his best under those circumstances. Gordon,
I totally agree with you, but surely that has some courage and conviction to say, hang on a minute, I don't want to be party to this. I want us to leave. I want us to have a good deal. I'm not going to just, sort of like dither around the edges, because at the end of the day, I'm making myself look a fool. People would have more respect for him if he said, no, sorry, this is not what I was looking for. This is not what I want to do. If you want to do this, you get on with it. I'm clearing off.
Well, there may come... Who's to say, Gordon? Who's to say? There could come a point when David Davis says that. What I do know about him, having discussed this subject with him, having been around the country and spoken with him, is, he genuinely believes in the case for Brexit. He genuinely believes in democratic self-government for this country, and he genuinely believes there are better business opportunities beyond the strictures of the European Union. Gordon, we'll have to watch this one with interest, but who's to say? At some point he may say enough is enough. Bridget is calling from Putney. Bridget, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. First of all, I want to say Jacob Rees-Mogg does represent the working class. You don't have to be, high class or come from, a well-heeled family. I just believe he's fighting for the people that wanted to come out. He's fighting for us, and there's no one really fighting for us, because it's like Theresa May and her band of, well, team I call them. They give in to her. They just literally say, well, what do you want? And we just give it over to them. We don't seem to be negotiating.
Well,
and I want to say,
Bridget, come on, you're not being fair. You're not being fair, no. Bridget. You're not being fair to the government.
I am. They don't do no negotiating, as far as I'm concerned. They say, what do you want, to the bully boys from Brussels.
Yep.
And we don't need another vote, Nigel, so don't even think of that. You just got to be strong and think, right, now, because you're buckling. And it's like, now we've got it. It's like sending doubts. We don't want to send doubts. We've just got to stay strong and not buckle.
Bridget, I don't want a second referendum, but I fear we may be dragged towards one. And I think that if we had more decisive leadership and government, the country would be more confident of doing the Brexit thing and doing it properly. Bridget, I just think we've got the wrong Prime Minister.
Well, we look like a complete dimwits as far as I'm concerned. There's, no one's really standing up for us. And after, what you said last week, we need another vote, I just thought, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And you know what? I feel like if we have this other referendum and we just go back in, I don't know what would happen. They'd put extra more charges on.
I think...
I think if it was Poland or Italy, they'd be opening the door for them. They'd be going, open the door, and they'd boot them up the backside.
Bridget, I don't think if they force us to vote again on rejoining this union, looking at everything that's been said by Macron last week, by Merkel today, by Juncker, by the Verhofstadts, by all of them about this centralised state with its army, its air force, its navy, its foreign policy, one in which Juncker said everybody must join the Schengen area, everyone must join the euro. If we have to fight them again, Bridget, we'll beat them again. I promise you. I thank you. Another new caller is Chris from Wimbledon. Good evening, Chris.
Hi, Nigel. It's an honour to speak with you. I hope you're well.
I'm very well. I just want to get on with it.
I do too. And, I just want to say first, I voted Brexit. I'm not keen on the European Court of Justice, and I want to be able to do our own trade deals. But I think we should avoid screaming blue murder just yet, because, this transition deal, it's only for 2 years.
Oh, Chris, you say it's only for 2 years. Article 50 was for 2 years. That was the transition period. That was the objective of it. And now we're saying another... or approximately 2 more years. Who's to say that extra 2 years, Chris, doesn't become 2 more years on top of that?
It could go on and on,
That's the point I'm making.
I do accept that. I mean, to be honest, Cameron and Osborne, when they're in government, they should have prepared for this whole thing. They didn't.
No.
But, and of course, May didn't really prepare for it. And, I do remember reading somewhere that maybe the civil service are just not fully prepared. It's like a bureaucratic nightmare, and businesses want certainty. And if that could help, then by all means, just as long as we are out...
Yeah, I mean, Chris, leaving the treaty is the absolute key, however bad the deal is. But it does look a little bit like Theresa May's government are lining us up on the 30th of March next year to have left the European Union, to have no say at all in it, and yet to have exactly the same level of commitments that we've got today. And, Chris, I just don't think that's good enough.
I guess it's like a very careful yes from me, but as long as this is nothing permanent, then of course I will stand with you and say treachery and betrayal.
Right. Well, let's hope we don't have to, Chris. But I thank you very much for your call. And my last caller of the evening is Chris, who's calling from Richmond. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Nigel. A couple of points regarding your previous caller talking about Jacob Rees-Mogg and the working classes. I mean, this is a man that stands to benefit enormously, just like your pal Alan Banks, from massive tax cuts when we leave the European Union. The second point I want to make, you made
There's no guarantee of that, is there, Chris? But anyway, go on. There's no. Leaving the European Union gives the British government control over nearly all of our lives. They might put taxes up, who's to say? And we're running out of time, Chris. Second point.
Yeah, regarding your comment about the European Army, I know, everyone else knows that we had a veto. And if we stayed in the European Union, we had still have a veto. There is no way that we could have had that taken away from us if
we were told in 1975 we could veto anything, and bit by bit that veto got watered down. And Juncker has made it perfectly clear they want to complete their foreign policy without veto, and I can't see us rejoining that. Chris, I thank you. I thank everybody. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'll be back tomorrow at 7. At 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins, but up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. So at 9, it's the Legal Hour. Your questions to Barrister Daniel Barnett from Outer Temple Chambers. We'll be looking at the legal aspects of that controversial President's Club dinner and also a new ruling on sick pay. Later on as well, scientists have managed to clone 2 monkeys using the technique that produced Dolly the sheep. But we'll be talking about the implications of this breakthrough. And first